There seems to be like this desire to go back to that which is traditional today, and I share that desire. And because of that, sometimes people speak as if anything that sort of precedes Thomas Aquinas is just modernist crap, you know. And so, well, yeah, sure, okay, the modern catechism says that, but it's just
Oh, well, then Trent would be modernist crap, because Trent didn't come before Thomas Aquinas.
Yeah. Or maybe the argument is there's like a slow spiraling into modernism or heresy. You've heard that sort of thing. I just wanted to get your response to that. As if it's older, it must be better. And so when you talk about, well, this development, this understanding about Pope John Paul II speaking about hell as a state, etc., well, that's to be less trusted than things that came before it.
Well, that would seem, I mean, prima facie, at first glance. I'm trying to avoid big words, but at first glance, that would seem contrary to the idea that the Holy Spirit progressively leads the church into a fuller understanding of the truth. I mean, that's something that's rooted there in Jesus' farewell discourse in John's Gospel. The Holy Spirit will lead you into all truth. And the church has looked on that, even though Jesus is talking specifically to the disciples there at the Last Supper. The church has recognized this is a broader principle. It's not that the Holy Spirit was going to lead these 12 guys into the fullness of the truth. There are broader implications for the Christian community, especially Jesus says things like he's going to be with the church to the end of the world and stuff like that. So there's an ongoing form of divine guidance, and you would expect over time that guidance to accumulate and result in a more refined understanding of the truth. And even if you were to stop doctrinal development at, let's say, the Council of Trent or in the 1500s, or at Vatican I in the 1800s, well, let's look at the chunk before that. Do we see a growth in the precision with which the church articulates its faith? And we do. It's very obvious to everybody, not just Catholics, but all Christians, except maybe Jehovah's Witnesses, but all Trinitarian Christians, that there has been a doctrinal development where the church gained in precision in articulating its faith. Before the Council of Nicaea, the first Nicaea in 325, you didn't have everybody clearly articulating the divinity of Christ. You had some people, including church fathers, who didn't articulate Christ's divinity the way we would today. And even after First Nicaea, you didn't have the divinity of the Holy Spirit, and thus the full doctrine of the Trinity articulated in a precise way. And that didn't happen until after the First Council of Constantinople in 381. Then you have the addition in 431 of Mary's motherhood of God. And then in 430. Then in 451 at the Council of Chalcedon, you have a more balanced presentation of Christ's two natures, which then continues to be refined in further councils. And so even if we just look at the core doctrines of deity, we see, the Trinity being the central mystery of the Christian faith, we see this progressive guidance of the church to articulate its faith in a more precise way. And we see that happening through all the other ecumenical councils. As we progress through history, they define more and more points. They articulate things in a more and more precise way. We see that happening all the way up through Trent, through the Middle Ages, through Trent, through Vatican I. That's the established historical pattern. Is a trajectory towards greater precision and understanding of what's in the deposit of faith. So if you want to propose that God is going to suddenly stop guiding the church and let it veer in the other direction, then you're going to need to provide some serious evidence for that. It's not sufficient to say, oh, well, older is automatically better. Because if older was automatically better, we should chuck Vatican I, we should chuck Trent, we should chuck all the medieval councils, we should chuck Chalcedon and Ephesus and First Constantinople and First Nicaea and do what some fringe Protestants try to do and say, let's forget the councils altogether and go back and be as primitive as we can in our expression of doctrine. So if you don't want to do that, if you recognize the trajectory that God has been guiding the church to greater understanding and precision in recognizing what's in the deposit of faith, you would at least have a presumption in favor of, and that continues over the course of time. Now, there may be ups and downs. There are always crises in the church, and you always have heresies breaking out in every age, and you need to identify those. But the fundamental long-term trajectory is always in this direction of increased understanding due to the guidance of the Holy Spirit, and therefore you should presume in any given case that that's what's happening. Now, as long as the matter hasn't been infallibly defined, you could debate it. You could say, well, I think this happens to be a case where people are making a mistake. But you need to show that. You can't just presume it.
If you like that clip, be sure to like and subscribe. Cheers.